Fly, host of Patriot TV, and I am incognito today. I'm Nana Bear today. And yes, I am going to see the Barbie movie. You know, we Christians get accused a lot of times of spouting stuff off without really seeing what we're talking about. Well, I am going to see the Barbie movie today because I think it's good for me to see some of the things that I've been hearing about it. I can say the same thing about our Christian faith. You know, a lot of people don't really, they poke a lot of things at us Christians, but they really haven't seen what our faith is all about. So I'm going to point out some of the positives, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of negatives too. But yes, I'm not hiding it, but I am incognito, but I will have a lot of things to say, I'm sure, after I see this movie. See you later. So as I mentioned on the way to the Barbie movie, we Christians are often accused of critiquing and criticizing things that we haven't seen or experienced. I really did not want to see this movie, but I started listening to a bunch of reviews from all different perspectives, mostly negative towards the movie. One of them was the Star Wars girl. She gave a great review on the movie. She grew up with Barbie and loved Barbie and was extremely disappointed in the Barbie movie. Amala, one of my favorites from PragerU, she was in London and she gave a great review, mostly negative against the movie. Ben Shapiro had a 40-plus minute review, and he literally tore this movie apart, and he was solid in all of his negativity towards it. I even found a young conservative male, Keaton Goomerson, an 18-year-old Catholic apologetic YouTuber and speaker that has a podcast called Kinetic Catholic Ministries. He gave a great review from a conservative male's perspective. Now, what they all had in common with their reviews was they all watched the movie. So, if I wanted to weigh in with my opinions, unfortunately, I would have to suffer through the movie as they did. After viewing the movie, I did come to the exact same conclusion. It was pretty terrible. I will comment, though, that I love when the devil overreaches, because every time he does, I tend to go searching for answers and information, and I always seem to find new and fresh sources of knowledge. I did not know that Star Wars Girl or Kinetic Catholic Ministries existed, so I found some new people to follow. So let's get the positive things that I liked about the movie out of the way right out of the gate. This should take all of about 60 seconds. Okay. It was kind of cute. There's actually two intros, but the second intro to the movie starts in the Barbie Dreamland house. And Barbie wakes up and she goes and takes a shower, and no water comes out of the shower. That's kind of cute. Barbie Dreamland house, get it? She goes and puts her little toast in the toaster, and she gets her cup of whatever she's drinking, and she pours it into her mouth. Nothing comes out. Barbie Dreamland. She gets dressed, puts on her cute little outfit, and she comes down to the second floor outside, and she has her high heels on, and she waltzes across the plastic pool. And her little arched feet. Now, everyone knows that Barbies have arched feet. The only flat-footed Barbies are dollar store knockoffs. So, okay, like I said, about 60 seconds, I can honestly say that was about it for me. The rest of the movie was terrible. Okay, so what bothers me about this is this movie was marketed, they had great marketing for this movie. It was marketed as a nostalgic trip down Barbie Lane for adult moms and daughters, or the cool modern day moms to take their 8-year-old little girls to see, to this supposedly cutesy movie. Well, just for starters, this is what we really got. First of all, it's PG-13 rated. That should be an immediate tip-off that you don't take your 8-year-old girls to this movie. It's loaded with suggestive humor, total man-bashing, some of the suggestive humor, and please, I apologize for the offensive example, but there is a scene on the beach where all the Kens are threatening to beach each other off. I don't need to say any more about that. Also, a transgender star, Hari Nef, is featured in the movie and encourages living your life and being in your body your way on your own terms. Now, in my opinion, as I said earlier, Barbie has 2 opening scenes. The first one is really weird and creepy. It is a parody of Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, where little girls are playing with dolls. Not Barbies yet, just dolls. You know, the old-fashioned dolls with bald heads and, you know, they're breakable, a lot of them. Well, Helen Mirren's voice overnotes that before Barbie, the only thing little girls could pretend to be were mothers. Like, that's a bad thing. Until Barbie. Thanks to Barbie, girls discovered that they could be doctors, lawyers, even the president. This first intro concludes, Barbie has solved all of women's problems. Let's watch this opening intro. It is really weird and creepy.
Since the beginning of time, since the first little girl ever existed, there have been dolls. But the dolls were always and forever baby dolls. Until...
Okay, the second opening scene, that a lot of people think this is the opening scene, but that creepy thing was really the opening scene. The second opening scene, we cut to the Barbie Land version of The Truman Show. Barbie wakes up every morning in her classic dream house, showers in her waterless shower, she drinks from her empty cup, she slips her arched feet into her high heels, waltzes her perfect body in her fashionable wardrobe choice of the day over the sparkling plastic pool and heads to the beach, where all the Ken dolls are doing what they always do all day long, every single day, beach. Okay, this is the first hint of one of the main themes of the entire movie. Men are useless and all around bad. In the Barbie world, Ken's job is to be present, mostly as an accessory to Barbie. He is non-essential. I quote one of the statements I read recently, Ken's forced politeness suppresses an ocean of unrequited love and lack of purpose. Now, the Barbie that I grew up with is portrayed very differently than the Barbie portrayed in this film. Margot Robbie Barbie does not love Ken. She treats Ryan Gosling, who plays Ken, like an accessory throughout the whole movie. My Barbie and Ken were in love, and they belonged together. In my Barbie world, Ken had a purpose and a job. There was Dr. Ken and Nurse Barbie. There was Pilot Ken and Stewardess Barbie. There was Prince Ken and Princess Barbie. Ken was a groom, Barbie was the bride. There was President Ken and First Lady Barbie. Now, that's not saying that Barbie couldn't have been a doctor. There was Dr. Barbie. There was Veterinarian Barbie. You know, Barbie could do pretty much anything that Ken could do reasonably. I mean, she can't lift the same amount of weight that a man can lift, but she could do pretty much anything that Ken could do. But Ken had a purpose. He had a job. He was a provider. He was the boyfriend. They liked each other. In this movie, Robbie Barbie treats Ken like a dog. Real Barbie is supposed to be nice. Little girls that grow up playing with Barbies, they want to find their Prince Charming. Ken was Barbie's Prince Charming. Real Barbie would not treat others like a dog. she was supposed to be the role model, the big sister, the best friend. There was Skipper and there was Kelly. She was a big sister. She was kind to everyone. She was that really good image of what little girls want to become. Margot Robbie's Barbie is all about her. So moving on. At this point, the Barbies are all doing their thing. They're having their parties. They're on the beach. They're doing what they do every day, all day long, every single day. Truman Show. And all of a sudden, Barbie's feet go flat. And she begins to think about death, which is not acceptable in Barbie Land. Barbie Land is happy. You don't think about death. So Barbie doesn't understand why she's having these thoughts of death, and her feet go perfectly flat. And she goes to see Weird Lesbian Barbie. Enter some more wokeism and some more sexual innuendos. Yep, Weird Lesbian Barbie, which is a whole nother side story that I really don't want to drag this out for 40 minutes like Ben Shapiro did. It was a great review that he did, but I'm trying to keep this a little bit short. So that I'm not going to go into that Weird Lesbian Barbie side story, but there is a whole side story there. Weird Lesbian Barbie tells Barbie that she must go to the real world to find out who is playing with her too hard and causing her to have these thoughts of death and making her feet go flat. So there's this portal, and Barbie decides that she's going to have to go through this portal and go find out who her owner is and who is putting these thoughts of death into her and causing her to have these non-Barbie issues. Okay. So Barbie heads into the real world. She heads out in her little fake car, and Ken pops up and has decided to tag along. Well, Barbie doesn't like Ken in Barbie Land, and she doesn't want Ken to come, but Ken comes anyway. She's like, all right, come on, you can come with me. So upon entering the real world, they start out together and then they separate. And all of a sudden, Ken discovers patriarchy, which, by the way, patriarchy that word is said in this movie probably about 200 times. They drill patriarchy into your head over and over and over and over again. So this is the first time you'll hear it on this show, but get used to it. Patriarchy is said over and over again. He realizes all of a sudden that there are advantages to being a male, such as a job and respect. And he starts liking that you can be respected in the male world. Now, of course, it also promotes men in the real world as pigs, as bad, as controlling, and also weak. It shows men as weak. And the further along you get into the movie and you see the men in the real world, they're just all bad. The whole theme of this whole movie is men are bad. So Ken realizes these advantages, and he decides to head back to Barbie Land without Barbie to share what he has learned with the rest of the Kens. And he takes patriarchy back to Barbie Land. And somehow, almost immediately, all these intelligent matriarchal women that have been running Barbie Land fall prey to Ken's spell, and we now enter the next stage of the movie, cut to a very bad Barbie version of the Stepford Wives. Okay? All of a sudden, you have all these women that were running Barbie Land are now bringing beers to Ken and bringing them food and rubbing their backs and rubbing their feet and catering to all the Kens that have now taken over Barbie Land. In the Barbie, who is still in Barbie Land, it's all lost control now. So in the meantime, Barbie is still in the real world, where she is receiving the message that in the real world, unlike in Barbie Land, women are oppressed and they're worthless, and men rule in this world. The Mattel executives, which are all men in the movie, of course, they find out that something's wrong, and they say, oh, we've got to get Barbie back to Barbie Land right away. We can't have this happen. I will tell you, this movie is all over the page. There are just so many scenes stuck here and there that make no sense. There's really no rhyme or reason. We're not sure why there's all these, I think there's like 10 Mattel executives that all of a sudden, and that's led by Will Ferrell in his little pink tie. And he's typical Will Ferrell in this movie. He's just ridiculous. And they have to get Barbie back to Barbie Land. So, and just a footnote. The Mattel board, in real life, by the way, and you can look it up, it consists of 6 men and 5 very powerful women. Just saying, it's not all men. But we have to put that in the movie. We have to push every possible woke agenda that can be squeezed into 2 hours of a movie. So eventually, Barbie finds her owner, Gloria, played by another well-known feminist, leftist liberal, America Ferrara. And this is the woman that is her owner. She's owned Barbie her whole life, and she's now a woman who works for Mattel as just a receptionist or secretary or whatever. Of course, she can't have a powerful position. But this is the woman that's making her flat-footed and causing her to think about death. Because America Ferrara in real life has all these issues in her own mind. So she's having issues with her daughter, Sasha. Gloria is her name. She's having issues with her daughter, Sasha. And Barbie goes to Sasha's school, and Sasha throws all kinds of insults at her, calls her a fascist, and all kinds of things that Barbie gets upset and realizes, oh, these girls don't like me. Well, the Mattel men are chasing Barbie at this point. And America Ferrara, who plays Gloria, her daughter, they pull up with their car and say, Barbie, get in, get in. And all 3 of them go back through the portal and back to Barbie Land. So, when they get to Barbie Land, they realize that Barbie Land has been taken over by the Kens. We can't have that. That's not good. The Kens have taken over Barbie Land, and all the Barbies are under their spell. So, at this point, and this was probably the lowest point of the movie for me. America Ferrara, she has her big scene where she motivates the Barbies to take back Barbie Land with her very special speech, how hard it is to be a woman. This is a really sad speech for me. I mean, it's the media is promoting this as one of the highlights of the movie. For me, it's the lowest point. Listen to this speech.
It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we have to always be extraordinary. But somehow we're always doing it wrong. Like, you have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money, because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll, just representing a woman, then I don't even know.
So I do not agree with almost any of this. I personally love being a woman and love being a mom. And to me, it's an honor. And I really believe that we are living in some of the best times ever for women in this country. Women have a lot of power. And moms, I was a stay-at-home mom. My daughter works. And I'm fine with that. Everyone is fine with that. Women have jobs, they have power. I have a husband that treats me with respect and loves me. And this movie does nothing to embrace womanhood, motherhood, positive, healthy, godly, moral relationships. It's just, I don't even think, I mean, the feminists will love it, but I don't think it even embraces feminism, because it is so against men, and everything about it is just negative and angry. But let's move on with the movie. The Barbies, with the help of weird lesbian Barbie, they find a way to manipulate the Kens to gain control back of Barbie Land, where once again, matriarchy rules over patriarchy, and all men are once again stupid, okay? They reinstate the female black president to show how passionately non-racist everyone is in Barbie Land, in total contrast to the token white pretty boy, Ryan Gosling, Ken, that kind of ran Ken Land for a very short and apparently unfulfilling time. Cut to a very bad all-male dance scene for no apparent reason again, kind of a mix between Grease and Footloose, and no real reason for it, just Ken feeling bad that he's just Ken, again.
I'm just Ken, where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for me? Doing stuff. So hey, check me out, yeah, I'm just Ken, baby.
The Kens actually all seem perfectly content to go back to almost the way things were. The men in this film are portrayed as annoying, stupid, incompetent, worthless. They're completely emasculated by the Barbies. America Ferrera has a husband back in the real world, and all he does is sit around and learn a foreign language. And they kind of make jokes about even him. Like, if you hate men so much, why are you married? I mean, why are you a mom if you hate motherhood so much? But, you know, we're supposed to just rush right over that and not ask questions like that. So I said again, this is definitely not a movie for children. That there's a scene on the beach I told you about beaching each other, not cool. All about women are amazing and men are just not. So this movie ends just the way it begins. Everything goes back to the way it was. Barbie decides to go back into the real world and become Barbara, a human, which is pretty interesting because while she was in the real world, it made her cry. It made her sad. She didn't like anything about the real world. But in the end, she's given the chance to, and that's a whole nother story too, in a really weird way. It's like this thing, they go up to like a purgatory thing, and Rhea Perlman is her creator, and she gives her this opportunity to become human. Well, she decides to become human. And at the very end, it looks like she's going to go for a job interview. Her Gloria and Sasha, they drive her up. They're all excited, and she's switched from her high heel shoes to her Birkenstock, her little, ugly sandals. and it looks like she's going for a job interview. Well, she hops out of the car, and she walks in, and she's at her gynecologist, and she's all excited to be at her gynecologist because miraculously a plastic doll can now have girl parts. So that's the best ending that they could come up with. There's absolutely no redeeming quality, almost zero plot, just nothing. Now, I didn't expect much from this movie. I certainly didn't expect moral value, Christian value, but the sad part about it is it could have been so much more. The Barbie and Ken that I grew up with was a positive thing, and this movie was the total opposite of positive. Our culture is already so divided. The tensions are strong between feminism and patriarchy, between men and women, gender, death and suicide, power, race, freedom and liberty. These are all at the center of controversy. This could have been a tool to teach instead of just glorifying division. In my personal opinion, I know many of you cool moms out there will disagree, and I respect your opinions. I'm pretty sure that many will not respect my opinion, and that's okay, because for now it's still a free country, and in America, we still all have the right to have an opinion. I always like to end with a positive spin on my show, but I have to end with the negatives of this movie. If you do decide to see it for yourself, note that this movie, as I said several times, is not for children. Many sexual undertones, and it's not for children. Didn't that kind of defeat the whole purpose of the movie? They market it as this cute little Barbie movie that you could turn into a girl's day, and you could take your 8-year-old daughter for a girl's day out. As older moms, we could have a really cool trip down nostalgia lane with our adult daughters, which I did go to the movie with my adult daughter, but it was not a girl's day out. She probably liked it a whole lot more than I did. I did not like the movie at all. She knew that when we went, but it wasn't like our fun girl's day out. It was just, I'm going to go to the movie and critique it. You can go to the movie and watch it. It wasn't anything like what they market it as, and typical Hollywood. The real world in this movie is a patriarchy. It is horrible to be a woman, and all men are totally worthless. The world should be a matriarchy. There is not one quality man in the movie. They are all feminine, stupid, sexually harassing, belittling women, and just all around bad. They're just bad. The man-woman relationship in this movie is cold and abusive. Margot Robbie, she's more like a villain. She treats Ken like a dog through the whole movie, and she throws him little treats, and he comes running like a little puppy dog, and then it's like she pulls the treat away. She's really not nice to Ken at all. And Ken's like, okay, bring it on. I'll take it. Just like a dog. It's really sad. Hollywood had the opportunity to do so much good with this film. Every little girl had a Barbie, multiple Barbies. Every mom gave their little girls Barbies because Barbies were positive and kind and safe, and they were a great role model. Barbie had a cool boyfriend, Ken. They did cool things together. They had little jet skis. They went out on jet skis together. They went on dates together. They did cool things. Margot Robbie, Barbie, and Ken, they went to the real world, and they supposedly learned a lot about themselves and a lot about the real world and life in general, and they liked some of what they learned. They didn't like some of what they learned. But why didn't that make them better people or better dolls when they got back to Barbie land? No, instead, they went back to Barbie land, and they became the exact same dolls that they were before they went into the real world. Everything went back to normal. Everything stayed completely divided. Men went back to being beach, stupid, non-essential, no jobs, no purpose in life. The women took control of Barbie land again. Oh, and in the end, Barbie says to Ken, you're going to have to learn to find yourself without me. Well, first of all, there's nothing to find. He has no purpose in life. And if he doesn't have Barbie, to cuddle up to as a puppy dog, what's he supposed to do with his life? How's he supposed to find his purpose? I mean, the whole thing is just, the movie opened and closed promoting intolerance, division, and empowerment for women only. The men changed the Constitution, and the women changed it back. Huge political undertones. We're not supposed to talk about politics. They had a constitution that they lived by, the women. And when the men got into Barbie land, they changed the Constitution. Isn't that what they're trying to do right now? They're trying to change our Constitution right now. Well, the women got back in, and they changed it back. It works for the women, not for the men. In my opinion, this movie accomplished only one goal. I believe this to be possibly the most woke movie of 2023 to date. Big accomplishment for the left. So, my positive end, I do have to end on a positive note. My positive end of this episode is that Barbie, a plastic doll that lives in a plastic world, does not define any of us. We are created in God's image. Genesis 1:27 says that God created man in his own image. Humans are in the image of God in their moral, spiritual, and intellectual nature. Luke 12:7, the very hairs on our head are all numbered. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows. This movie left me feeling sad, cold, hopeless, and empty. Not for me, but for Barbie Land and everyone in it. How sad this movie was. As a believer, I trust in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Matthew 19:26. With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. I'm Janet Palombi. See you next time on Patriot TV News.